This is the SHIB coin 1 year overview reading for the year of 2024. It's currently March 30th, 2024, 8:51 p.m. Eastern time. SHIB coin at the time of this reading is currently 0.0000300055. That's USD. And the shuffle video was created on September 24th, 2023 at 11:07 p.m. Eastern time. So to be clear, the file was created. This file in the lower left corner that's playing now was created back in September of 2023, but we got so backed up on private orders, our waiting list has become so long. This is the earliest we're able to get to it. So the good news is that we can use the first quarter as a control to determine the accuracy of the most likely the accuracy of the overall reading. If the first quarter is good, the remainder of the reading should be pretty good. If the first quarter is not so good, then maybe we do it over. You know what I mean? So the behavior, the overall theme and behavior for shitcoin in 2024 is out of a decline from the bottom of the range. Out of a decline, there's a huge move from the bottom of the range all the way to the top of the range. That's on a 1 year chart kind of scale. It's crossed with the abundance card, indicating very, very likely that we have an all-time high for shitcoin in 2024. When I get into the paid version, I'm going to go show you guys the multi-year reading and how it lines up really well for a all-time high here in 2024. Behavior. So usually you also see with the abundance in a prominence position like that, we might see a low, then a high followed by another low. Behavior around the highest high for the year. There's probably two highest highs for the year. Like we see the same high probably twice. And I say that because the Queen of Cups indicates a decline from a resistance level on a 1 year chart scale. A decline from, I should say, the high from that resistance at the high down to a support that's important on a 1 year chart scale. We reverse, go all the way back to that resistance, in essence, right back to the high, and then we reverse and go all the way back to the support that we had fallen to just previously. So it makes like a sideways S formation within a channel. Behavior around the low, we have a big move out of the low, pushing the upper end of a range higher. So that indicates that very likely we're going to see the move that takes us to the all-time high. We're going to see that start out of one of the lowest lows, if not the lowest low. Like there might be more than one, but we're going to see the move to take us to the highest high, possibly like come right out of the lowest low. It's a possibility. We could just push like a multi-day range higher as well, but very likely that's what'll happen. Now, before we get any further, I'm going to get into the week-by-week chart behavior as well as timing the highest highs and the lowest lows. But before I do that, I want to make sure that everybody's aware. The whole purpose of the channel is to transmute some of the competitive energy of the stock market into goodwill. We do that by following the rule of karma for the channel. You go to the resources tab of our website, Tarot for Traders, and 5% of the profits from every profitable trade utilizing this information should be donated forward to one of these charities, or pick a charity of your choosing as long as you're paying 5% forward, and then 5% should be sent back to the channel through one of these links. If you're international, you can use Wise or you can use YouTube tips. And that leaves you at 90%. Make sure to spend that 90% out of love. As long as you follow those rules, you follow the rule of karma for the channel, the universe considers you an angel investor. It's going to send it back to you tenfold for following through. Blessings to all my angel investors. Let's get back into it. All right, so here in January we have, it looks like there was a little bit of a breakout at the end of 2023, and then we have this trade opportunity in early January near an important low, and then there's this big move to the upside early January turning into price swings, and we have a lowest low, at least thus far here, towards the cusp of January, February. I'm also advised not to chase the high in January, so that's important in the midst of price swings. Probably 2 January highs based on the Dominion card. But we'll kind of like flatten out around the January low, and then there's a lot of volatility, or I should say back and forth price action around a resistance level in February. Usually when you see that Princess of Swords resistance, you have a decline from the resistance and then you eventually return back to the resistance. So it allows for you to utilize that as an entry and an exit for trading in both directions. And I'll talk about that in much more detail in the paid version, but advice to be cautious near the February high, and February high is likely towards the end of February within a period of sideways fluidity, equal amounts of bulls and bears inflow and outflow. Out of the February low, well, first off, the February low forms with some sideways rotation, and then out of the low, there's this big move higher, followed by more sideways rotation. Also, often the prudence card is sideways rotation as well, like some sort of like tricky back and forth, but overall sideways behavior. There's a notable trade opportunity in early February, and then it looks like we have a highest high in early March. A lot of volatility or a lot of price change into and or out of that high, and there's a sharp decline from the high. Like the low for March forms when we have a peak that we sell off from pretty notably on a 1 year chart, and that takes us into a prominent trough on a 1 year chart scale. But then by the end of March, we have a rally that increases with momentum moving forward in time. Pretty big move to the upside starting maybe the beginning of the 4th week. And then there's an intentional fake out or shake out, some sort of tricky chart behavior intended to make us do something impulsive or do the wrong thing here in early April. What I'm picking up on a lot of readings is kind of like a drop right on the cusp, like a quick drop right on the cusp before a move to highest highs. And so we attempt to establish support near the high, the April high, which in a lot of readings, the April-May high is really the highest high for the year. I'm not so sure that's the case here, but if we don't, we'll see a highest high here. And if we don't, an all-time high here, I should say. And if we don't see an all-time high here, then there's 2 other locations where it's likely to be, which I'll get into as we progress through the reading. We have a U-shaped dip in the later part of April. Behavior around the April low, we have a rally along a diagonal trend line that ends with a fast sliding move higher, and then a breakdown through that diagonal trend line with increasing volatility on the way down, taking us into the low. We sell off from a near overbought crest near the low, taking us into the low, that sell off. Looks like we have the April high towards the end of the month of April, and there's a trade opportunity there. I'll talk about it in more detail. Looks like after the selling from down mid-month from a near overbought crest into a prominent trough layer mid-month, there's a big move in the 3rd week to the upside, and then a U-shaped dip with a high at the end of the month. Looks like right on the cusp. Actually, it looks like there's a significant fake out right on the cusp based on the cross-reading congruencies of the April reading. It looks like there's a significant fake out on a multi-day scale towards the cusp of April-May, probably to the downside based on the fact that May is a pop and then a drop, like a big move higher, full retracement. So like end of first week, beginning of second week, trade opportunity. I'll talk about in more detail. There's a significant low mid-month of May. That forms after a decline through multiple support levels, and that low is very likely a lowest low thus far. Might be the same low, or it's the lowest low thus far. The May high forms when we have a decline down off of it to and through support to meet another support. We bounce along that support sideways for a bit and then break down through more supports. The later part of May, we have 3 pokes through the same trend line. Usually it's horizontal, but not always. 3 pokes through the same trend line followed by a sharp drop off at the third poke, and that sharp drop off at the third poke will continue into early June, where we have another lowest low. So it's likely that we see either a low in both May and a low in June, or the May low and the June low are the same low. Hard to say, but there's a notable opportunity. One of the bigger opportunities. I'm gonna get into that in the paid version. There's an important price level on a multi-year scale highlighted near the June high, and that's another location. If we don't make the all-time high here, then this is likely to be where it is. It's possible we do in both locations, like all-time high and then another all-time like higher high. But if this doesn't end up being an all-time high, then this on a multi-year scale, this will likely be an all-time high here. And we do sideways rotation in the later part of June. The behavior near the June low, sideways bumping along resistance, possibly breaking through and then bumping along another resistance sideways. The majority of the behavior is bumping along the resistance sideways there when you see the Valor card. And then we have a fast sudden move higher. So that sideways looks like that sideways rotation in the later part of June might even be slightly to the downside because we've got a correlation to the strength card here in the early part of July, which implies that there's a decline before this big move to the upside taking place in the early part of July. Sideways fluctuating decline off of the July high. We revisit a support level that was recently a past opportunity with some sideways rotation and a sharp drop that takes us into the July low, and then out of a decline, there's a big move to the upside in the later part of July, in the face of seemingly overwhelming headwinds, or possibly in the face of some seemingly like overwhelmingly negative technical chart behavior. Now, before we go any further, let's take a look and see how we did for Before we go any further, let's take a look and see how we did for the first quarter of 2024. So we have a low right here on the cusp. This is the lowest low thus far right here on the cusp of January, February. So we nailed that, and that's kind of like where we see the reversal, but it's still like sideways fluidity. We go back and forth between resistance and support here, and then big move into a highest high in the early March, right? Early March, there's a highest high thus far. Turns into a decline in the early part of March, off of a peak, significant decline through multiple supports, and then we rally increasing with momentum moving forward as we exit March. There should be a fake out really, really soon here. Although if it doesn't take place in the beginning of April, it'll be right on the cusp of April, May. It might be both. But this looks pretty solid thus far. We nailed the high and the lowest, the highest high and the lowest low thus far. Nailed them both. I'm pointing here, but the highest high and the lowest low thus far. And again, this 2024 reading was actually created 9/24/2023, 11:07 p.m. Eastern time. Real quick, let's take a look and see how 2023 went. So we have a highest high in January, in the later part of January, and you can see it's right there at the very end of January. We pushed the upper end of a range higher to meet the January high, and there was a higher price level in the end of 2023 as well. That all looks pretty good. Then we have this is like a unicursal hexagram kind of price level, and you can see we decline pretty notably. We do it again, another unicursal hexagram here in the end of, right here in the end of February. There's 2 of them, right? Then there's a fake out here in early March. That's the devil card with a sharp drop, followed by an important price level near the end of March, which is the science price level here. And we do kind of back and forth sideways rotation. We also have, it's not quite a lowest low, but it's pretty close. And it's definitely stands out as a low there in March. Opportunity in this is unicursal here, which we have it at the very end of July into August. So that's a little bit off, but we have this prominent peak here on the cusp of July, August, or actually it's more so in August, and we nailed that. We have it as a possible highest high, but it ends up being a very prominent peak. And then we go into lowest low again. That's the Ace of Cups there in June, lowest low right there, which kind of was on the cusp of June. Oh, it's at the beginning of June. So it's that Ace of Cups. Yeah, and then we're like pretty close to it right around the cusp of June, July. And then we go into this prominent high here, back into lowest lows. We nailed those lowest lows. We nailed that highest high. We were off on these highs, but they were still prominent highs that really stood out. The majority of these trades really would have come in pretty solid, guys. Especially here, if you in June at that Ace of Cups, if you open up a long position as instructed there, you could have closed out of it at the August high, and it looks like at the end of the year there's a trade opportunity to close out of it as well. Overall, pretty solid reading, guys. Would have been advised to open up a short there and close the short at the June low if you were going to do a long trade like that, which is really not the best idea, but it would have worked out. And that's that full card in early February. So what happened in early February? Let's see. In early February, we have the high, right? Early February, late January, that was our highest high for the year. And you can see that was a significant opportunity at a highest high before overall decline. Like, that was probably one of the best opportunities of 2023 to open up a short position. Full card there indicates that. That's what we mean when we say there's an opportunity when you're looking back at 2024 or something. When I say that, something along those lines, when you're looking back at it, the full card will stand out as really like one of the best opportunities of the year. So you can see how that came to fruition. And the 2023, if you guys are wondering, the 2023 reading was created on December 20th, 2022 at 7:51 p.m. Eastern time. Last time it was modified December 20th, 2022 7:51 p.m. Not that it really matters at that point. So if you're interested in getting the paid version of the shitcoin reading, guys, it's a really great way to support the channel. The way that you do that, it's already been ordered. So you go to our services, SO Meta Posts, scroll down to 1 year report, click here to order, and you click on choose one. They're discounted because they've already been done. There's roughly like a 48-hour turnaround. You basically just pick whichever one you want. There's some 2025s in there as well, and there'll be some 2026s in there pretty soon. As we release them, as people order customs or we put out 1 years, we add them to the list. You can order any of them here at a discounted price. Or if you're interested in a ticker that we're not covering or a crypto that we're not covering, click on 1 year report, click here to order, click on custom report, specify the year, specify the ticker or crypto, add to cart. Great way to support the channel. Well undervalued, or underpriced, I should say. And the final way that you can go about getting the 1 year report for SHIB is if you're one of our total access members. It's our top tier subscription. You go to SO Meta Post, scroll down to total access, click here to order. This gets you access to the paid version of basically everything that we have, all of the 1 years that we have. And as they come, new ones come out, you get the access to all of those. And you also get access to the monthly paid versions of the monthlies that regularly come out every month, as well as any one-offs that people order that we throw out there. Like in April, we've got Theta and Chainlink. All of that you get with a total access subscription. Best way to support the channel. Much appreciation. Everybody does that. Love you guys. Let's get back into it. Okay, so the move higher out of a decline in the end of July continues into August. We have a breakout, into August, and we have a breakout there in the early part of August with an unexpected move to the upside, and a notable trade opportunity mid-month of August at a prominent peak. There's a prominent peak on a 1 year chart scale within close time proximity to the August low, and there's also a pretty good trade opportunity around that August low. And towards the end of August, we have an important resistance level that's highlighted. We failed to break through it many times before, and it's highlighted there. Often there's a pretty strong decline off of the resistance with the cruelty card, but it's not always the case. We have sideways rotation in early September that ends, and there's a fast sudden move higher out of that sideways rotation. Probably the second week, we're bound by the upper end of a range there, and we actually go from the bottom of a range all the way to the top of a range, probably from like the low of August into the high of September. In the later part of September, we have prominent peak, a big move into a prominent peak, and then a decline from that prominent peak through multiple support levels, taking us into another lowest low. And we probably see a lowest low twice. It's either we see the same low twice in September, or we revisit the low that we see at the end of September in October, because we've got this sideways crisscrossing back and forth 3 times through the same price level, first to the upside, then to the downside, then back to the upside near the September low. In October, we have an important price level acting as resistance in the early part of October, and usually what we'll see is like flattened out volatility or flattened out price action, or both, when we see the true card. The October high forms when we have a decline off of a crest down to and through support. We do a U-shaped reversal below that support, come back and reuse it as support, and it looks like there's a really important low there. This is probably the second low of that 3 crosses that we mentioned at the low of September. We probably see the second of those lows here in October. It's a prominent low. It's a death card indicating a really notable low. It looks like it's probably towards the end of the month, and we successfully turned resistance into support on a multi-day scale in the later part of October. Right in the last week, off of a lowest low, there's a big move to the upside, and then it looks like we have an even lower low, or a sharp drop into an even lower low in the early part of November. There's an important support level highlighted on a multi-year scale in the early part of November. Out of a decline at the November low, there's a big move higher, ending that decline, and then I'm advised there's a significant trade opportunity, to cash out opportunity, I should say, around the November high, which is a prominent peak. In the later part of November, we have a failed attempt to break through key resistance, followed by a decline through key support, and then it looks like there's a peak right on the cusp of November, December, and then like the halting of a bullish trend near the December high, which is probably in the early part of December. We decline pretty notably with the universal hexagram through multiple support levels into a December low, and the December low forms when we have a brief peak that's easily missed, followed by a decline into it. The later part of December, we have a rally into key resistance on a multi-day scale, followed by a decline with consecutively lower specs up on the way down. We might actually have another high there based on the ace of wands and the universal and some cross-reading secondary like kind of cross-reading energies. Oh, and the other location where we might possibly have, if we don't see an all-time high in either of these locations, we would very, very likely see it here in the October high and or in the December high. Well, we're going to see it this year very, very positively, but there's a strong likelihood it's here if it's not one of those two. It could be all three. Like we have a higher high, and a higher high. That could happen too. The sneak preview for the year of 2025 is a prominent move higher on a multi-year scale, followed by a full retracement that move back down, and it'll be a prominent peak on a multi-year scale that it creates by doing that. That's SHIB for 2024, my friends. Please subscribe if you haven't done so. It really helps out the channel. Most importantly, make sure to follow that rule of karma. You know where to go. You know what to do. Blessings to all my angel investors. Stay tuned if you got the paid version. We're going to get into the timing of the best trades, as well as what to look for as far as entry and exit chart behavior into and out of those trades in just a moment.